What did keto do to me? That's what today's video is about. My name is Ryan. This is High Carb Regenerator. Welcome to my channel. So today I wanted to talk about, yesterday I went over my buddy's house and he found an old picture of the two of us. I'm going to show that at some point in this video. But after I saw that video, I started thinking to myself, what have I done to myself? I look at this picture of me from, back in the day. This was taken in '98, so I was 18. Or almost 18. I think this was in July. And I look at this and I know I'm a bigger dude, right? But I really wasn't that overweight. And I don't know what got into my head of like how I got so neurotic about this whole weight thing and what caused me to go on basically a keto thing for 10 years and all the binges and everything like that I've been through and everything that I've been through. And I wanted to talk about that in today's video because I think people really need to evaluate when they look at themselves in a picture or in the mirror or something like that. I look perfectly fine. And honestly, if I had known about high carb, low fat back in the day, it would have taken me like a month to get where I wanted to go because I was not restricting at this time at all. I don't really know that I ever restricted. The only thing I did was because I was on keto, I actually restricted carbohydrates. I've never been anorexic. I've never been bulimic or anything like that. After leg day, we used to go to, or like any heavy lifting, we would eat a ton of food. So there was no restriction whatsoever back in the day. It was literally just when I went into 99. So this was taken in 98. In 1999 is when I don't know. I just decided I was just way too fat, and I stopped lifting weights, and I started just walking every day. And I might have had nothing to do with the keto because years after I stopped doing the walking and the keto wasn't working anymore. I don't suggest keto in any circumstance whatsoever. If you're watching this video, if your doctor told you to do keto, find another doctor or something like that. The doctors back in the day were telling me to stay away from keto, that it was really going to be dangerous for me. And I didn't listen to it. And ironic, I know I've said this in a couple other videos, but the doctor who mainly was telling me not to do keto died from doing keto. So it's crazy to me looking at this picture that I'll show here. This is me from '98. We were holding up our canisters of protein, bragging about it. And you see off to the side there was a designer whey. I don't know. We used to buy those things like crazy, and then we found muscle milk and all that. And I kind of carried on with that when I went into the keto life because it really didn't have that many carbohydrates in it. They managed to, or maybe they did, and I had to come off of it. I forget. But muscle milk was really good. It had a root beer float one that we were like obsessed with. But if I really had looked at this and really had the knowledge that we have nowadays, I would never have gone keto, and I would have never gone to the lengths that I've gone to as far as yo-yo dieting, as far as weight that I've gained, as far as the constant yo-yo. In 2002, 2001 or 2002, my testosterone tanked because I wasn't eating any carbohydrates, and the doctors are always like, "Oh, it's fat intake." Well, it isn't fat intake because my testosterone took a huge dive, and that is when my weight started climbing like crazy. Like crazy. Everybody's like, why would we listen to your diet when you're gaining so much weight? And I have gone through this throughout my, my whole adult life probably because of the keto, because it was so bad. I was still kind of in my developmental years because I kind of hit puberty late. And, I can only imagine what it did to my endocrine system, and my pituitary gland has always given me issues, They found a 2.4 millimeter nodule on there back in 2002, 2010. And then what was it? I think 2 years ago that I had it scanned again and they couldn't find it. So I don't know if it's gone because of vegan or they just couldn't find it anymore. I have no idea. They never did figure out what it was. Everybody thought it was like some kind of like vein articulation that mine just kind of formed weird. But I've always had these huge spikes of hormones, you know, it's crazy. And is it because I went on keto? Who knows? I have no idea. I have no way of going back in a time machine and going back and doing it over again. So I have no idea because I don't have any reference prior to probably 2001, 2002, somewhere in that range is when I really started looking into this, because I was started really going through what I'm going through the rest of the time is I started being tired all the time, like all the time. And I was fairly big and muscular at this time. Like in 98, we really started lifting. We had been lifting for some years at that point, but we were doing more of like the 8x10s or whatever it is, like 8 to 10 reps. I really didn't start gaining a lot of size until I started doing the 3 to 5 reps that I started doing in my early 20s. So because of the fact that I had so much muscle mass on me and I could lift so much, and I'm a very hairy creature, the doctors didn't believe that my testosterone would be low. So they sent me, to get blood tests, and they were shocked at how low it was. And it was in the low 200s, and I was in my early 20s. And I never put 2 and 2 together. They didn't put 2 and 2 together. The carbohydrates is actually what increases your testosterone. And if you don't believe me, I did a video not too long ago about testosterone and how sugar affects it. I might throw that in this video here. Maybe I will, because it was only a couple minute video. But I'm just so like I don't like to think about the past. I don't like to think about the future because you can only live in the now. Your body can only live in the now. Your body can't understand the future or the past, but your brain thinks about this. And I do think about that. Like, had I just done even just a normal diet, like I found Mike Mentor in 2003 or 2004, and he was talking about 75% of your intake should be from carbohydrates. And I'm like, oh, this guy has no idea what he was talking about. But meanwhile, the guy looked incredible. Now, I know he was on drugs and I know he was a little bit crazy, but he did have the right ideas. He had the right workout program. He had the right macronutrients, 75% carbohydrates. That's not too far from 80-10-10. I mean, it wasn't vegan by any means, but it's still the macro nutrients. And he was really into potatoes. He was really into rice. And it might have been pasta too. There was 3 that he was really into. I've got his book probably somewhere still. But it's got me really thinking. And if you're watching this video and you're on keto, really, really dig down, really watch this video, really get some information out of this, and look at my picture from back in the day. I really wasn't that overweight. Now, I did show this to somebody last night, and she said that I looked overweight, and she started making fun of me, and I started crying. No, I'm just kidding. But, but really, the reality is I just am wider and everything because of weightlifting. Like, I've got stretch marks, I've got all this stuff. I would never have been this size had it not been for weightlifting. And I'm kind of like, is it really a good thing that I even did weightlifting? Because all of us who did weightlifting back in the day, we're like senior citizens now. And everybody that I know that lifted back in the day, even, proper form and all that kind of stuff, it just takes a huge toll on your body. And is that toll good? I don't know if that toll is very good. If you're watching this and you're younger, I would really suggest getting more into hiking, biking. If you really want to lift, like do it, I don't know, at nature or something like that. I would never go down that life again. I know my buddies who lifted, they still lift. I don't know that I could ever go down that path again. I did lift a lot more than they did. I got maybe too serious into it. Maybe that was my problem, but they kind of still have the same aches and pains that I also have. So anyways, the point of this is looking at this picture, I'm like, what was I thinking? And it develops into neurological disorder almost. I mean, it really starts messing with your head when you start having these body dysmorphia feelings. Like you're either too big, you're too small, you're too this, you're too that. And at the end of the day, you're always going to end up in a casket or cremated. So it really doesn't matter all that much anyway. So why do you really pay attention to it this much? Just eat the healthy way. Let your body do what it wants to do. And then you can just thrive off that. There's none of this dysmorphia is needed. It just, when I look at this picture, I don't have a lot of pictures from back in the day. I really didn't like taking pictures. And the pictures, a lot of the pictures I did have, my ex-wife like threw out. And, it wasn't, there was no social media back then. There was no camera on the fly. There was no camera attached to a phone. We didn't even have cell phones when I took this. And there was no social media. There was none of that. So I don't have a lot of this documented, but I do remember a lot of this stuff. And I didn't remember that I was this, in my mind, slender comparatively to where I'm at right now. I thought 225 was an absurd amount of weight. I think in this picture, I was probably about 210, 205, 210 or something like that. I did add some weight to that because of the cheesecake thing being added to food distribution company that I worked at. I did gain some weight, and that's what caused me to go on keto, but damn. Had I had this information, that's why the point of making this video is, had I had this information, I would never have gone keto. Never have gone keto. Knowing if I had this knowledge, if you could go back, right? If I had this knowledge going back into it, I would never even think about keto ever. Whatever it was called back in the day, it really wasn't called keto. I mean, I just went so high protein, so high fat. I was living off of broccoli, cauliflower. I think you were allowed a quarter of a sweet potato like once a week for a refeed or something like that. And then if you really followed it, they started intermittent fasting because they realized it wasn't working. People were like dying and everything, and they didn't want keto to get the blame for it. But damn, looking at this picture, man, I mean, I'll show a picture of what happened, the eventual end of it. And this wasn't even as big as I got. I wouldn't let people take pictures of. There is one picture, nobody knows where it is, of me at like over 405. I took up like the entire couch. It was ridiculous how big I got. And it's all because of this mindset that I had. What you think about expands. And when you think about how fat you are, when you think about how whatever, it doesn't even matter that. If you think about how broke you are, if you think about how this is going to happen, if you think about how this is going to happen, it's going to happen eventually because it's all you think about. And I was not that overweight at this point when you saw it from that picture. But when thinking about how overweight I was, I eventually got myself there at the 405. You eventually are going to get where you're thinking about. If you're constantly thinking of what you don't want in your life, you're going to constantly get what you don't want in your life. If you're constantly thinking about what you want in your life, you will eventually get there. Now, it might take a lot of time to get your mind to the place that it needs to be, to your heart to the place it needs to be. But if you're always thinking about how fat you are, you're just going to stay fat. You're always going to be fat because you're always thinking about how fat you are. And that is a proof in the pudding here of the picture. Look at this picture and look at what happened to me because I was always thinking about how fat I was. I don't even know what the hell it mattered. What did it matter anyways? Not that I was even that big. I was only an XL at this time, a larger an XL at this time. Now I'm like double or triple XL. It's ridiculous. And I'm still thinking about it. I'm still thinking of it because I make these videos. I think about, the fatness. And then I watch or I look at this image of myself when I was 17 and always thinking about how fat I was. Now, it might have something to do with the fact that I went to a school where everybody was like gorgeous, right? Like the ugly people at my school were better looking than the hot people at the schools next. Like it was ridiculous. Like the catalog of, you should see my school yearbook from the school that I went to. It was ridiculous. So many of the people, especially women that I went to school with, ended up being models. And there was a big school. It was the biggest school in Ohio. high school in Ohio, 3-year high school in Ohio. It's just, wow. But anyway, that gets you in the mindset. If you're not a model, you must be fat or stupid or whatever, ugly or whatever it is. Had I gone to maybe a different school, maybe I never even had this mindset, you know, but I did. And if you're watching this and you're younger or older or whatever, just get out of that mindset. You know, what does it matter? This is why I tell you not to weigh yourself, because when you weigh yourself, even if you go down, you're still thinking about how fat you are. Even if you go down, even if you go from 290 to 260, like I did last year for Lent, I was still thinking about how fat I was. You know, just let your clothes do the talking. If your clothes are falling off, you can't keep them on anymore. You're either a porn star or you've lost some weight, you know? So really think about this. It's just, I know I'm on a total ramble, but I'm like, my mind was like, kind of like, wow. When I saw this picture, I was like, wow. And I said to my buddy, I said, I don't know why I always thought it was fat. And he's like, I don't either. I never thought you were fat. I don't know. I don't know. I just got into the mindset, and I want anybody who watches this video just to get yourself out of the mindset. Stop weighing yourself. Stop talking about how fat you are. Stop, you know, like I always joke about, you know, the Sunday fat joke. Like somehow or other, I always, you know, feel like somebody tells a Sunday fat joke. Get yourself out of this mindset, because it's just always going to keep you fat, or have your phone yelling at you while you're trying to make a video. But it's always going to keep you where you don't want to be. So stop thinking about where you don't want to be, because you're always going to be where you don't want to be. And that is the point of the video. I could ramble on. I'm using this GoPro. Hopefully the sound is half decent. When I can't see myself on the screen, when I feel like I'm doing a podcast, I can go on for hours. So I don't want to take you too long, but damn, look at me at 17 thinking I was fat, and look at what happened to me thinking I was fat because I thought I was fat, and I did everything needed to get fat. Everything needed, because you are going to follow your thoughts to get where you think you are. Anyways, that's the end of the video. Like, comment, questions, all that good stuff down below. Talk to you in the next video.